In 1926, Michio Kushi was born in Japan at about the same time that George Osawa, still known as Yukikazu Sakurazawa, first began to publish his magazine for Shoku Yokai. Michio was a bright student who excelled in law and political science at Tokyo University, the most prominent university in Japan. Coming of age during the maelstrom of World War II, young Michio was deeply disturbed by the destruction of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Horrified by the loss of life and devastation that came in the wake of war, he decided to commit the rest of his life to the attainment of world peace. While studying in Tokyo, Michio was introduced to the lifelong pacifist Osawa, who took him under his wing. He encouraged Michio to travel to the United States to promote macrobiotic philosophy.
George took it really to the nth degree and challenged Michio to think about, if we are what we eat, could what we eat create a more peaceful world, both environmentally, from a humanitarian standpoint, and from a physiological standpoint? So Michio started thinking and really started embracing the idea.
The young Kushi transferred from Tokyo University to Columbia University to pursue an advanced degree. It was while living in New York that he began studying the progressive ideas of thinkers across many disciplines. Eager to begin his self-appointed peacemaking mission, he sought the counsel of such notable geniuses as Albert Einstein, Thomas Mann and Upton Sinclair, hoping they could shed light on the secret of putting an end to war for all time. Osawa and Kushi were as intent on spreading their macrobiotic vision as they were in attaining world peace. So they mapped out a shrewd strategy. Osawa instructed his two key disciples, Herman Ohara and Michio Kushi, to teach macrobiotics on different coasts.
So Michio goes to the East Coast and Herman goes to the West Coast. Michio wears black suits and ties, and Herman wears plaid shirts and goes fishing.
And it's interesting to see how macrobiotics developed differently in the different locations. And there are kind of two schools of macrobiotics, which is perfect when you look at it based on their locale.
Today, the macrobiotic community on the East Coast attracts more of an intellectual academic crowd, whereas its counterpart in the West attracts rugged outdoor types who cook on wood stoves and camp out together. Yet both communities have succeeded in maintaining the integrity of Osawa's ideas. In 1951, Aveline Yokoyama, another Osawa acolyte from Tokyo, joined Michio in New York. They soon married and moved to Boston to teach macrobiotics and establish a natural foods distribution company. Convinced that macrobiotics could foster world peace, the Kushis created the East-West Foundation to support macrobiotic education and research, as well as the Kushi Institute for One Peaceful World.
He talks about when he first studied with Osawa. He was in economics and was really interested in world peace, and that was his mission.
The Kushis taught that recovery from illness is delayed by lack of gratitude, wrong diet, weak will, and an absence of family support. They also believed in maintaining a cheerful attitude even when angry, sad, or anxious, a view modern psychologists might disdain. Michio Kushi took some other liberties with George Osawa's macrobiotic philosophy, adding more constraints, some of which seem a bit bizarre, like avoiding wool, synthetic fibres, metallic jewellery, and the electromagnetic frequencies of television. Though the macrobiotic belief system has certainly held its ground in the United States, finding solid scientific evidence that justifies such extreme restrictions is another matter.
It's about delicious, beautiful, fun food.
I was diagnosed with cancer.
The Journal of the American Medical Association sharply criticizes the severely restricted versions of the macrobiotic diet. The journal said that over a protracted period of time, its strict limitations can lead to scurvy, anemia, emaciation, and even loss of kidney function due to reduced fluid intake. Yet there are those who follow a macrobiotic diet successfully and scoff at these concerns. So where exactly does the truth lie?
Of course, you're going to die with a brown rice diet if you don't change it, but it's a great way to fast. Gets you clear thinking, get all kinds of energy. But the caution is to don't stay on it. You got to get off and fill all your nutritional needs with other foods.
You know, in the US, you say to eat brown rice for 10 days, someone will say, well, I'll do it for a year, that'll be better, right?
As it turns out, a macrobiotic diet affords a great deal of flexibility in terms of food choices and nutritional value. But its supporters make some other claims, such as crediting the diet with helping them recover from cancer that simply have not been scientifically proven.
Many people see it as the cancer prevention diet, or the cancer healing diet, or that bland brown rice diet. I think the biggest misconception in macrobiotics is that it's about brown rice and miso soup. And it's not. It's about delicious, beautiful, fun food that's as simple or as decadent as you need it to be, based on your condition.
There are persistent stories of cancer patients who have recovered, and a number of them believe macrobiotics played an important role.
I was diagnosed with cancer. When you get that kind of phone call, everything happens really quickly. One day I got the phone call, next week I'm having surgery, and the next week I'm in the chemotherapy room.
Well-known side effects of chemotherapy include nausea and suppressed appetite. Many cancer patients lose excessive amounts of weight as a result.
It's really important what you put in your body, and especially for me at that time, because when I was hungry, which wasn't often, I was reaching for the most caloric and fattening foods I could find, such as milkshakes and French fries and anything that would fill me up and just give me calories and fat. But I wasn't considering, you know, what those foods were offering me: no nutrients and no energy and no vitality.
While medical professionals stress the importance of a healthy diet to help withstand the negative effects of aggressive cancer treatments, few oncologists go as far as to advocate macrobiotics as a healing diet. However, oncologist Dr. Keith Block of Chicago incorporates a semi-vegetarian diet with many similarities to macrobiotics. The diet stresses grains, vegetables, fruit and legumes, and his treatment protocols also include conventional cancer treatments and psychosocial counseling. Though he doesn't advocate a severely restricted macrobiotic diet, he acknowledges the striking similarities between macrobiotics and his nutritional plan. He feels his plan's value lies in its emphasis on low-fat intake, high fibre, complex carbohydrates, and moderate amounts of protein, all hallmarks of a macrobiotic meal plan.
So I started moving towards more the whole foods, the whole grains, you know, just incorporating more fruits and vegetables into my life, and it really made an impact in my treatment. And I'm 6 years cancer-free, so.
My experience in macrobiotics is only 25 years. So it's not a long time. On the other hand, it's long enough to know that I've seen people that have encountered catastrophic illnesses get well.
In the early 1980s, a conventional American medical doctor by the name of Anthony Satellaro wrote a book entitled Recalled by Life that provided a fascinating account of his amazing recovery from metastatic prostate cancer. He was given a dismal prognosis by his physicians, but chose to go ahead with conventional cancer treatments. In desperation, Dr. Satellaro switched to a macrobiotic diet and subsequently lived a completely normal life for another 7 years. Because Dr. Satellaro wasn't part of a clinical trial, the scientific community weren't entirely convinced. They were impressed by his lengthy remission and quality of life, but they also wondered if his temporary recovery resulted from the foods he ate or whether other lifestyle factors were involved.
When people are willing to make a jump to natural, whole, organic, local and seasonal foods, they're also making many other changes in their lives.
The scientists who step forward to prove a macrobiotic diet can cure cancer will no doubt be biting off more than they can chew. But it is possible to find some pretty convincing evidence that a low-fat, high-fibre, largely plant-based diet can offer a wide variety of health benefits.
That transition time will vary from person to person.
The easiest way to incorporate macrobiotics would be to start slowly.
Currently, macrobiotics is not a single diet for everyone, but a collection of dietary principles that considers geography and climate, age, sex, level of activity, and ever-changing personal needs. Many foods familiar to Americans, such as vegetables, beans, and fish, are included in the macrobiotic approach to meal planning. However, it also contains a few surprises, such as hijiki, daikon radishes, umboshi plums, and burdock roots. For those who are ready to experiment, it's best to allow some time to make a comfortable transition in eating habits.
That transition time will vary from person to person, of course. I think it takes about 40 days to create a new habit. This is dangerous territory to make this assumption, but I think most people, if they eat healthy for 40 days, they'll have a hard time going back to a highly industrialized, processed diet.
The easiest way to incorporate macrobiotics would be to start slowly, just one meal or one snack a day, incorporating some of the more common foods, such as the dark leafy greens or the sea vegetables or the whole grains, and start finding out which food you like and which you don't, and play around with the different preparation methods. And then naturally, the processed foods, the foods that offer no nutritional value that we're so used to eating on a daily basis will naturally get crowded out. And then you can start to slowly increase the consumption of the whole foods.
Preparing meals macrobiotically also requires a consideration of the balance between foods that are acidifying or alkalizing.
Foods that tend to be acidifying are high sugar, high refined carbohydrates, high protein, high fat tend to be more acidifying, whereas vegetables, sea salts, good quality condiments like good quality soy sauce or umeboshi vinegar is something that we use a lot, which is a salt pickled apricot. Things like that would be more alkalizing. So looking at when you need more alkalizing foods and getting those through your diet, that's applying the macrobiotic principles.
Now, according to macrobiotics, you start off with the soup, and this apparently is a carrot and ginger soup, so let's try. Yeah, that's really very good. You can taste the carrot, there's a ginger, and you know what, it's not at all bland, it's really got a lot of flavour. I'm gonna have another piece. Another principle to consider is how eating a certain food makes the diner feel.
Is it warming or cooling? Does it cause you to open up and relax, or does it cause you to focus?
Because basic macrobiotic principles such as these are unfamiliar to Western diners, they can seem a little intimidating at first, but they're actually quite simple.
If I say cool as you say cucumber. It's just automatically known. So cucumbers are cooling, more appropriate in a hot Texas summer. So there are things that, like ginger, it's more warming. We tend to know these things. So applying that more deeply to all foods, to lifestyles and things like that.
A more flexible macrobiotic meal plan does include some raw fruits and vegetables, so the diner ingests adequate amounts of the volatile B complex vitamins and vitamin C.
There's actually a lot of vitamin C in seaweed, which is a big part of the macrobiotic diet, the sea vegetables like kombu and wakame and nori.
A study published in the Canadian Medical Association Journal in 1968 concluded that sea vegetables contain a substance that selectively binds radioactive strontium and helps remove it from the body. The modest amounts of fish included in a macrobiotic diet provide adequate vitamin B12, which is only found in animal sources, and which humans only need in small amounts. Some doctors are concerned that large quantities of grains drive the body towards an acidic state, which creates an environment in which cancer cells can easily grow. They caution that grains must be carefully balanced by foods with a strongly alkalizing effect to avoid this problem. Perhaps they needn't worry. There's actually very convincing scientific evidence that increasing grain consumption can be a good thing, if for no other reason than it leaves no room for less nutritious foods. During World War I, the superintendent of Denmark's State Institute of Food Research advised the government to raise grain rather than livestock for human consumption due to foreign trade blockades. In 1917 and 1918, the Danes switched to barley, rye bread, green vegetables and some potatoes, milk and butter. The death rate from all causes, including cancer, dropped by a staggering 34%. Similarly, during World War II, breast cancer mortality in England and Wales dropped significantly at a time when sugar, meat and fat were scarce or unavailable, and grain and vegetable consumption markedly increased. Some practitioners claim that miso, a highly valued macrobiotic food, pulls radioactive toxins from the body. Based on the experience in 1945 of Dr. Tatsuhiro Akizuki. He was located a mile from the center of the Nagasaki atomic bomb blast, and he later fed his staff a strict macrobiotic diet that included large quantities of miso. They survived while others in the vicinity, as well as much further away, succumbed to radiation sickness. Miso is a fermented soy food made from cooked soybeans and cultured grains such as rice or barley, salt, water and the edible aspergillus mold known as koji, which is also used to make sake and soy sauce.
When they distill it or they ferment it, the miso is the thicker part of the soybean that goes to the bottom of the barrel. The top part is the soy sauce.
These studies and anecdotes certainly suggest that a macrobiotic diet could be on the right track, and some research exists to support certain aspects of the more flexible approach to macrobiotics. However, a vast archive of randomized clinical trials does not. Unfortunately, studies take years to conduct, and creating a uniform environment in food selection and preparation techniques for subjects who don't take their meals together is challenging to say the least. Even preparing one's own macrobiotic meals on a daily basis is complex. One almost requires a personal chef to get it right.
So things like raw food can be macrobiotic.
The whole grains are very versatile.